everyone. This is Talkback. I'm Sheila Horvitz. So listen, how about a bam? How about a crack? How about a bamboo? How about some flowers and some winds? Do you know what we're talking about? It's mahjong. It's a cultural phenomenon, and it's been going on for generations, and we're playing it now. We know that we hear about it in China, and during this coronavirus in China, they came in and they broke up mahjong parlors, and they took away people's tiles, and they broke up their mahjong tables so they couldn't play, so they could be safe. They were so desperate to play mahjong. Well, we have 5 desperate mahjong players with us. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to demystify it, and we're going to have some mahjong fun. Let me introduce the people that we have today, the 5 mahjong mavens. So first, let me introduce Cindy Weiner. Cindy, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm missing mahjong.
Okay, and Gail Weber. Hi, Gail. Hi, Donna Goldman. Hi, Donna Goldman. Carol Curlin. Hi, Carol. And Iris Freeman. All of them are mahjong players. And, you know, there's a mystique about this game. I have to admit, I was a little girl, and my mother would play the game with my aunts and her friends. And I didn't play it till I was a very young mother. But then I went off to school and professional school, and maybe 30, 40 years passed. And then everybody came back to the game because there was this person named Iris Freeman who happens to be here. And she was giving all of us who grew up with mahjong in the house, or who had played it or maybe hadn't played it, giving us some refresher courses, some lessons. And now it's a thing, and it's a thing in our community. And Iris doesn't even live in southeastern Connecticut anymore, but she still comes back to host her mahjong tournaments. And I'm going to have her talk about this. Coincidentally, yesterday, we were supposed to have a tournament. So Iris, I want to introduce you. Tell us about how you got involved with mahjong, what the game means to you. Why is it such a great game? What's so great about it? And how did you start doing these tournaments?
Okay, I'll give you the encapsulated version. And I also have a little information about the actual history of mahjong. So
yeah, we'll do that later.
Okay, we can talk about that in a bit. So basically, I also didn't come to the game until I was maybe in my 40s. And my mother taught me. She also did not play when she was younger, until she was about 60. And I played for a few years and was living in Ohio, moved to Connecticut. And I thought, gee, this could be a great fundraiser for the temple that I had joined there. And they were always looking for ways to raise money. The only problem was there weren't that many people in the area in southeastern Connecticut that were playing at that point. So I went, okay, this has got to be a multi-year plan. So my first plan was that I started teaching people. We'd have a group of players that could then come to our tournament. So it was all I have to say, I really had plotted this out. And I love teaching anyway. So that's how I started. So I came to teach people so that we have more people playing. And coincidentally, there's been a movement towards more and more people from all walks of life playing the game. And that was very convenient for me. It worked very well to my plan. So that's how my tournament progressed and got to the point where we were having well over 100 people at a tournament. And as you said, sadly, it would have been yesterday, but such is life in coronavirus land.
The game, usually when you go to these tournaments, you're usually seeing mostly women from the community. But are more men playing the game, Iris? Is it catching on with men as it does in China, as you know?
Right. And in some communities, particularly in many of the Asian communities, it's oftentimes a very predominantly male game. Although there were clusters of women that play, they play and the men play. And here in the U.S., it is definitely growing. And one of the things that's happening recently is the development of a new version of mahjong called Siamese mahjong, where you're basically playing 2 hands at a time. And that seems to be one of the hooks that a lot of guys really enjoy. It's a little more stimulating for them. And I'm seeing a lot of men coming into the game because their wives are teaching them how to play Siamese mahjong.
So
It's,
this is so this is a good time when we could be learning and playing that Siamese mahjong, right? All right, but before I leave you and go to the next person, you have to give me the answer. The key answer is, what is the magic of mahjong? Why? Give me a couple of words, give me one phrase. That's what I'm
I'd
asking
say
everybody.
it's number one, it's socialization. It is, and when I did research and looking into the history of mahjong, what gives it its longevity is that it began within ethnic communities as a way for people to socialize with their friends. And that is, I think, today still continues to be the big hook.
Right. And we just had in our Hadassah magazine just this month, there was an article on mahjong, of course. All right, let's go to Cindy. Cindy, tell us your story about mahjong and give us your magic phrase. Cindy said, Iris said socialization. Come on, it's more than that. You go.
Well, it is a lot more than that. I mean, it's socialization, it's friendship, it's camaraderie, it is family, it is laughter, it is just, it's wonderful. The game itself is so much fun, but to have your friends with you on a weekly basis and you get caught up on everybody's life and you play a great game, and that's what it is for me. I've been playing for, let me see, about 27 years now here in New London. But I grew up with it. My mom played every Thursday night. She had mahjong, and I would set up the tiles for her, and I would know all the tiles, all the cracks and bams and dots and winds and dragons, and I just grew up with the game, so I just always knew it. And just loved and felt that my mother had this connection with these other women that was on such a different level than other friends of hers. And I am so appreciative and love that that's what I have on in my life. It's very important.
Great. Okay, next. Who do we have next? How about you, Gail? Give us your phrase and your little history.
Okay, so I learned to play mahjong at Temple, and I was my teacher. Um, she was fabulous, and I had a lot of fun. And then I found some other things to play. And I remember my mom playing with a young child and hearing the tiles at night, you know, being passed around as I was like falling asleep at night. And I always wanted to learn, and then I had this opportunity. And then for my birthday, my mother-in-law bought me my mahjong set, and then that was 15 years ago. And then about 5 years ago, I bought a set for my sister, and now she's hooked on it. And it's basically everything he said. The game is fun. I look forward to seeing my friends on a weekly basis and catching up, just being part of each other's lives.
Okay. Great. Let's go to the next. Hi, Donna. There you go. You want to play in your gazebo with your gloves, with your mask, with your, everybody bring their own whatevers, because you cannot stand a week going by without playing. So tell us about your story.
Well, my mother did play, so I was familiar with the game. And when my husband and I moved to Virginia, he was in the Army for 2 years. I got pregnant, and my mother-in-law bought me a set. So this was about 48 years ago. She said, now that you're going to become a mother, you need to play mahjong. So we got 4 people together. A couple of them knew how to play, and we started to play. And once we moved up to southeastern Connecticut, one of the first things I did was look for a game. And actually, I'm still playing with one of the same people that I played with so many years ago. It's social. We laugh. It keeps your brain working. I mean, you have to be a game player to really like it, but it is fun.
All right. Well, you know what's so interesting? Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
No, I think we all should have a virus test, so if we come out negative, we could start playing.
I know that's what you feel. All right. But you know what's interesting? None of you mentioned the competitive aspects of the game, winning, things like that. You mentioned all of the socialization, the friendships, the making, the family feeling, the wonderful laughter that we have. But you didn't get to the competition part, the part where you might want to win the game. You want to make the mahjong. You want to get the points, right? So, Carol, why don't you talk about that? What is your phrase for why mahjong is so great? Carol, go ahead. All right. Well, we'll get back to Carol when she gets online. Let's start with Iris again. I want you to we want to show everybody the tiles, the board, what it looks like. We'll do that with some slides. But let's start with Iris. Would you give us a little history of the game? Just a brief history. Where did it get started and how did it develop?
Right. Well, you gave away a few answers to questions that I was going to ask because you kind of implied it. My first question is, when did mahjong start? So choices are about 2,500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, about 150 years ago, or in the 1920s. Do we have any guesses?
I don't know.
24. We got one person voting for it. At least one person was suggesting 2,500 years ago. That's what I think is the common thought. But in reality, they really can't find any tracing back to that or some very remote associations. So it really started back, they documented in maybe 1880s, and the place of origin was in China. So folks were playing it there, and then some gentlemen that were traveling in brought it, and it spread to the U.S. and to Great Britain around the 1920s. So that's really where and when it here, it was immediately the people that picked it up, and again, this is the social aspect. It was these generally in ethnic communities. So you saw people in San Francisco, Chinese individuals in Chinatown in the 1930s, 1920s, 1930s, in San Francisco playing. And picked up also in other ethnic communities, as you're well aware, among the Jewish communities, particularly around the New York area. So that evolution kind of happened around 1930, and in 1937 was the first year of the National Mahjong League, where they actually were formed and put out what we now will talk about later, the National Mahjong League card. But interestingly enough, right around the time that it was taking off in the United States, it was banned in China in 1940, or in the 1940s. Because it was viewed with the political things that were going on there, it was viewed as gambling, and there's much more gambling associated with it in Asia than among the Asian communities than the American mahjong that we play, and stakes. So it was banned actually in China until around 1985. I think it was in 1985 that people were allowed to start playing again. But in the U.S., we had this evolution with the National Mahjong League evolved and they've made gradual changes to it. So I have one more question I'll offer you about a history of it. Anybody know how many versions of mahjong there are in the world or that are played?
Do not know that.
Okay,
Chinese, American, what else?
22 versions of mahjong.
Wow.
You've got in Thailand and Vietnam, and you've got various Asian versions and other versions. Even within the United States, we play National Mahjong League, which we think of as American Mahjong, but there's also the Wright-Patterson version of Mahjong, which they put out their own card. It's another known Mahjong. So even within the U.S., there's more than that. The most prominent one is in all U.S. tournaments and stuff like that are based on the National Mahjong version of Mahjong. Each version has different numbers of tiles. They play with a lot of the same tiles, but there's a few different tiles from one version to another. So you really need a rule book to see all the different types. And the other thing in terms of the history, it's kind of had been static for a while. And now I think we talk about our mothers and grandmothers, whatnot, but it's kind of, we had a renaissance, both among those of us who might have grown up with Mahjong with their parents playing, and now we've gone to, we've rekindled that. But also, as I said, it's spread out to the community centers. A lot of senior centers teach Mahjong, and it's become, it's broken those cultural stereotypes and cultural barriers. And now within the U.S. in particular, you see people from all walks of life playing. So that's the brief history.
Okay, that's great. And now I'm going to show some slides, and I'm going to have each of you give us descriptions, because this will be a way of telling us how the game is played, in a sense. We'll be able to get a good idea of that. So I'm going to share some Mahjong slides, and let's see. We're going to start with, how about if we start with Cindy? Do you see that, Cindy?
No, I don't see anything yet. Oh, up, I see a tile.
Exactly. That's the first slide. So Cindy, why don't you describe a Mahjong set, because those are the tiles that we play with, isn't it? Why don't you talk about that?
So you have 3 suits in Mahjong. Top is cracks, the middle is bands for bamboos, and the bottom is dots. You on the top, then let me just continue. You see there's a north, east, south, and west. Those are winds, and that is 4 of each of those. Also, let me just backtrack for the tiles, the cracks, and the bands and the dots. There's 4 of each number. There are winds, red, white, and green dragons, and there's 4 of those also. There's 4 of those also, and then there's 8. Excuse me, my grandfather is requesting something. There's 8 flowers, and then there's 8 jokers. There are hands that you can play that don't allow for jokers. Those are singles and pairs. There are hands that don't have any flowers. Some do, some don't. This year's card has a number of hands that have 5 flowers, which is unusual. And the card is something that we get. Iris orders them once a year for us. And each year we get new hands that we can play with. And it's always the big discussion. Oh, I like the last card better. I didn't like this card. I liked the card 5 years ago. So that gives a lot of discussion what we play with.
So you mentioned the dragons, the red dragon, the white, and then the green dragon. What's the white sometimes called? It's called something else besides the dragon.
Soap. It's called soap, and because it looks like a bar of soap.
Okay. And how many jokers are there in the set that we play with?
Pardon me?
Right, that's not right there.
How many jokers is in the set that we play with? There's
8.
more than 4. There's 8, right. All right, let's go on. So here's what you talked about. So Donna, talk about the card.
Well, I haven't played with it yet this year. I'm very disappointed, but the card, as Cindy said, there's a new one every year. It comes out usually in March, and we can't wait to see the new hands. And the goal of each game is that you have to make a hand that's on the card. Now, if you open the card, if somebody's there to open the card, you could see how each hand is different. And so you want to make a hand that's on the card.
All right, let's go to the next slide. This is just an example of, it may not be this year's card, but why don't you describe, if you could, the kinds of things you might see in a card.
Who are you talking to?
Donna.
Oh, okay. Okay, so when you make Mahjong, you have to have 14 tiles. So for instance, if you're doing a 3, 6, and 9 hands, you have 4 3s, 4 6s, and 4 9s, and 2 flowers. You could use jokers for any of the 3, 6, 9s, but you can't use jokers for the flowers, because that's a pair. So you could do 3, 6, and 9 in one suit, or 3, 6, and 9 in 3 different suits. And there are many, there's 2, 4, 6, 8 hands. Yeah, and there is competition. You're the one who wants to win. We do play for money, but it's a minute amount of money. It just makes it a little more fun.
Okay, Gail, look at this hand. Look at the hand that's on this slide. What is that person collecting with the 2 jokers? And then what are they looking at?
What? What?
What are they looking at on the card, this particular hand? That person is looking at with 2 jokers and the dots. What is she trying for, perhaps?
So she's looking to see consecutive numbers, and she wants to see which of her tiles, the number of her tiles has, which would be the best fit for her to go for a hand that's talking about consecutive numbers. So that's what she's looking at right now.
Okay, and then Donna mentioned that there are each hand has a value to it that you win when you play, and those numbers X25, X45. Gail, what does that represent?
So that's about how much money you win. So my family always laughs at me. My husband laughs when I come that I was the big winner. So we out $5 every week. And then if you win a hand, the X25 means that that hand is worth 25 cents. So it sounds very silly, but it really is a lot of fun. And we're sitting 4 players total. So I and that 25 cents, everyone 25 cents, except the person who gave me the mahjong tile then pays me 50 cents, or if I pick it myself, everyone pays me 50 cents. And then there's different variations. If you know Joker exposed, then you get to double the amount also. But some of the hands water cents, you know, if you win. So there's different opportunities for different amounts and, you know, different difficulties. The hands have different like levels of difficulty depending on how hard it is to get the tiles.
Okay, great. All right, Iris. Iris, talk about the way that the hands are set up and how some of these hands needing 3 cracks and these kinds of suits and some flowers. It's very much like a kind of a rummy, only they're prescribed hands. Talk about that idea.
Right.
Iris.
Well, sure. Well, the Asian versions don't have this card. So this card is unique to the American National Mahjong way of playing. So they are playing more like a rummy, traditional rummy, where you've got 3s of a kind or runs or things like that. And the American card, the National Mahjong League card, is basically just divided up. So you have hands that we call even, where you even numbers, odd numbers, sequential numbers, and hands that deal with a lot of the winds tiles, those northeast, west, south tiles. So the card is set up pretty much the same way every year. And as you pointed out, there's a new card each year. But the setup and the types of hands are consistent. But the actual hands may or may not be the same from one year to the next. They tweak them a little bit. One place you might need a pair of something, whereas this year you need 3 of a kind in that exposure. So that kind of helps you, but it's definitely reminiscent of a rummy type. That's definitely the thing. Particularly, you're picking and you're throwing. You're picking a tile from the wall, you're throwing a tile, as you constantly try to improve your hand to come closer and closer to approximating one of the hands on the card. And you may start going for one hand on the card thinking, oh, my tiles look like I'm in pretty good shape. Select for a certain hand that you might select. And then as you go along, it becomes apparent that you those tiles are not available to you, and you're going to have to switch and come up with new strategies. You're constantly having to think and strategize, and yet still try to play at a reasonable pace so everybody doesn't kind of fall asleep waiting for you to take a turn. I think that's one of the things I love too, is it's not like Scrabble. You're not sitting there waiting for hours for each person to take a turn. It moves, there's movement, there's activity.
Okay, so when someone throws a tile and you call it because you might need it to make a meld in your hand for the hand you're going through, right? So give us an
Right.
example. Let's play the 11 hand at the very left-hand bottom of this card that's on the screen. You need 4 flowers. You need 4 threes of, what does that mean? The green or the red plus 11. How does that work?
Right, the different colors on the card, it's a very confusing concept at the very beginning. But the different colors on the card represent numbers of different suits. So there is no green suit, red suit, and blue suit. That's the color ink that the card is done in. It portrays, if it's got green, blue, and red, it means you have to use each of those 3 suits that Cindy talked about earlier. So that concept is one of the ones that takes a little time for people to grasp. If everything is all one color, if it's all blue, it means it's all one suit. If it's got 2 colors, it means you have to combine 2 different suits. So there's variations on each hand, and it just takes a little while as you get more familiar with the card and you get more familiar with the game. You get to learn how to read that card, but there's a lot of little intricacy with it. And at the beginning, sometimes people will feel overwhelmed with all the information, but it all starts to fit together for a few weeks. I'd say it's a game that you can really master. To play at a reasonable level of independence after 3 or 4 sessions.
Okay, so in that hand for 11, I need 4 flowers. I need 4 threes. Let's say 4 cracks, 3 cracks, 4 of them. I need 4 bams of 8 bams, 4 of them, and 2 ones of, what's the other suit? Dots, right?
Right.
Those would make 3 suits, and that would equal 3 plus 8 is 11, and the flowers. And if I win that hand and I'm able to get all 14 tiles and expose them on my rack, if I do that, I'm going to get 25 cents from everybody at the table, right?
Well, if you pick it yourself, if you pick the tile that lets you complete that mahjong, then you'll get 50 cents from everybody.
Okay, good, right.
That decides to discard that 8 that I need, and then you pay me double, and everyone else pays me just the 25 cents. So even with that, we always find ways to vary it. And the thing is, individuals come up with little table rules, so there are little nuances that a group can decide on their own. But that's the standardized way of playing, is exactly described. And if you have jokers, you could substitute for any of those tiles, 1 or more jokers, except for that 1-1. Now, the 2 pairs of the 2 ones, you can't use jokers for a pair, so you would have to have the actual ones. So if somebody discards those ones and you don't have them, then that can mean that whole hand is kaput, and you have to figure out a different hand to start building towards. And sometimes there's still enough time to change hands, and sometimes it's just throw it out and wait till the next hand and call it a done deal.
Okay, let's go on. Let's see. So there was a beautiful book that Carol loaned to me, and it shows how the art of the game, so many different configurations all throughout history. And so here's some beautiful artwork. Cindy, you want to talk about that? Let's look at that lovely artwork.
Well, I think the artwork on some of these sets is magnificent. This is a beautiful set that has some really intricate looking flowers. What is interesting is everybody's set, even nowadays, is always all a little bit different flowers, different, well, I guess it's the flowers that usually have the most unique look of all of the tiles. This looks like it's a pretty old set. I have my grandmother's set, and that is also has some unusual artwork, and it goes back to however long people have had sets and the uniqueness of each individual one.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Gail, why don't you talk about this? These are a different kind of tiles made of different materials. Let's talk about that, Gail.
Well, the sets from like when my mom played, back in the 50s, the tiles were made of ivory. They're not made of ivory
No.
anymore. They're made
Not ivory.
out of plastic, and even the racks that we hold the tiles on, they used to be just very, very elegant. Now they use more plastic. So those are the only ones that I've seen, are the ivory ones, and then the ones we have now that are like plastic.
Yeah. Donna, do you want to say something about this, the various tiles and the different designs?
Well, it's just each set is unique. Sometimes the BAMs look a little different and the flowers. It just takes getting used to. But I do want to say that the game generally is a combination of skill and luck. Because it depends on what tiles you have, what everybody else is playing. So each game is separate, which makes it nice because there's so many complaints. You go around, oh, I haven't won one game. Lots of jokes about it. But it is just, and it looks very complicated. But once you get the hang of it, it really isn't.
Right. Iris, you talk about some of the other different kinds. This is a beautiful old set of flowers. So it's artwork. Some of these things are very valuable.
Yeah, it's probably bone and bamboo. And most of the sets you find now are either, as Gail said, either plastic or the older sets from the 1940s, which is with a material called bakelite, which became very popular back then, and a synthetic material. But there are people that collect sets. There are people that also, it's not uncommon to lose a tile. So there are opportunity placements. There are make a living off of replacing your mahjong tiles. You send them a sample of your missing tiles. There's a lady out in California that does it, and will also help find out the history of your set, who the manufacturer was, where it was made. So there's a lot of interesting information. The other thing you mentioned before about the different versions of mahjong use different numbers of tiles. So I always warn newer players who are enthusiastic and want to go out and get a set, that it's important to know what you need in a set before going out and buying one. So I would encourage them to talk to somebody who's experienced and knows about the different sets before you buy one, because it's very common to find Asian sets which don't have enough tiles to play American mahjong. So I would definitely say, get advice. There's also some tiles that were made that tends to shatter. They're older sets and they look really cool, but they can be very dangerous. They can shatter easily. So you really want to don't buy a set until you've done some research and gotten some input from somebody who knows what they're.
All right. In American mahjong, Iris, how many tiles are there in the set?
Okay, then I have to sit. I never can retain that number, so I have to sit there and do the math. I think it's
all right. Is it 144?
Does that sound right, guys?
144?
144.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I've been reading something about how mahjong reflects Chinese cosmology and philosophy, and 144 represents 12 times 12 zodiac signs. And there are lots of allusions to heaven, earth, and man in these tiles. So it's very interesting how we can take all kinds of life lessons from it. Go ahead.
But yet, but the number of tiles in American mahjong is not the same as the number of tiles that you use to play with Asian mahjong. So I'm not
right.
Sure
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but I read about that 144 as a number that had some meaning for zodiac 12 times 12, which is interesting. All right, let's see what's next. Oh, just another example of some beautiful artistic tiles. Famous Wu Chang uprising of 1911 that signaled the end of imperial rule and ushered in the Republic of China. So, Iris, you were talking about the fact that the Chinese government during the 40s banned mahjong, and now here they are creating some artwork in honor of something happening politically. So
Yeah.
it goes around. Beautiful. Let's see what's next. Oh, let's see. Cindy, talk about this. These are carrying cases for mahjong. Look at that, the beautiful work on that. What kind of case do you use?
Well, I have a very old leather-bound case. Again, as I said, it was my grandmother's, but now in the newer sets, they come in a pouch. And, you know, you can carry it over your shoulder. But this one is intricately carved. Stacy has a gorgeous set in a box also that is very old and very intricate. This is just beautiful. I guess these slides here are where the tiles fit in. I don't know if there's racks to go with this or not, but it is lovely.
Okay. Look at this one. Gail, why don't you talk about that?
That's
Gail?
beautiful. I've never seen anything like that. It's stunning.
It's a phoenix and a bird poised amid peonies, painted on the glass front of this mahjong box.
Never seen anything like that. Yeah.
And look at this one. Donna, what do you think about this one?
Can you hear? Okay. I think it's gorgeous. Wow. I have never seen anything like that before. I mean, some people carry their mahjong sets around in bags, you know. So, but this is quite beautiful. I'm sure it's also very expensive.
Not necessarily. It's amazing the variation.
You don't think so?
That's again why you really want to know what you're getting, because there are some contemporary sets that are made in China that are in very nice wooden cases, but it's not high quality wood, but it looks lovely. So again, you really want to research what you're getting. But I mean, on the photo, that looks amazing. I mean, that could be the real thing. It's kind of the difference between your antique roadshow. You got the real thing, you know, some that isn't what it might be. So you want to do your research.
All right, now let's have some fun. Take a look at this. I guess the Roaring 20s, they were playing mahjong. Is that true, Iris? Did they play in the 20s?
Well, the 20s is when it first came to the U.S. So they, you know, I would say, and Great Britain. So that could also be, I could definitely see that being perhaps in Great Britain as well. But that is when it started. That is 1920s is when it left China and came to Great Britain and the U.S. So that could fit.
All right, now we got some fun stuff. Why don't you each read one? Cindy, why don't you read that?
If mahjong were a science, I'd have my PhD. I have a few PhDs, I think, not just one.
All right. There are, well, we talk about you and some others as being like the PhDs of mahjong, so it fits. All right, let's see. Gail, you do the next one.
Laughter is the second best medicine. Mahjong is the first.
Okay.
It's the truth. Mahjong is wonderful. Puts me in a good
All right.
mood.
Okay, now Donna.
Have something over. Okay. Some mahjong is like the moon. It brightens up my evening. That's true.
Now, some people say that they get so energized by the game they can't even sleep sometimes if they've had a good game. Is that true for anybody? No. Okay, Iris.
Sure, I'll stop playing when they pry the tiles from my cold, dead fingers. Okay. That's
Is that you? Does that describe you?
You know, I love the game. I absolutely love the game, but I love it as partly I love the game, but I love it as a vehicle for the camaraderie. So I guess if my dead cold fingers are playing with my dead cold friends, then okay.
Okay. Let's see. Cindy.
My husband said if I don't give up mahjong, he's leaving. He's leaving. God, I'll miss him.
How many husbands appreciate the game? Do they? Iris, I think your husband knows a little about
Oh
it.
yeah, he's been playing for years. My son, my husband, and he plays Siamese mahjong with me. He actually will say now on the weekends, as we're in quarantine here, or self-imposed quarantine, that okay, so you want to play some Siamese? You want to play some Siamese? So he thoroughly enjoys it. He actually, I will have to say, Cindy is who was here today, is responsible for his making the statement he would never play in another tournament again. Because one time one of my very early tournaments, and I was short a player, so I begged him to please sit in. And his first game he played, he was at a table with Cindy, and she played so fast it made him so nervous. He said he developed the worst, and he would never play at a tournament again and help me out.
Oh, Cindy.
He'd move the tables. He'll do anything.
I never knew that. I never knew
Yeah.
that.
He said he would do anything to help out, setting up, cleaning up, anything for my, but never ask him to play again.
Okay, let's see. Gail, you did the next one.
If playing mahjong is wrong, I don't want to be right. Very cute.
Okay, Donna, you get the next one.
Okay, I can't see it. I never get any jokers. I never get any jokers. That's people
Yeah.
say that.
We complain all the time. Now, we didn't go into all the nuances of the game, but if Iris were to go on further, she would explain that there are hands where there are no jokers. Jokerless hands are very valuable, but most of the other hands allow for jokers, and we're always complaining that we're not getting the jokers we need for our hands. I don't think there's ever been a game where somebody hasn't complained about that, right? Pretty right. Okay, Iris, you take the next one.
Let's see. Is everything made in China these days?
Mahjong.
Okay.
Well, where are the sets made, Iris, now? The set that I'm going to buy, let's say I'm going on Amazon and I'm going to buy a set. Where is it made now?
Most all the sets are made in China now. There are some really cool artist sets. If you've got an extra $1,000 to spend and you want to get a new contemporary set, there are some beautiful, one-of-a-kind, hand-painted sets. I'll be glad to find the link and give it to anybody who wants it. They are phenomenal. And you basically sign up. I think they're $1,000 or $1,200 usually a piece for a set. And they're exquisite. There's also a set so the tiles probably are still made in China, but these are hand-painted tiles that are hand-painted by artists in the U.S. And then there's another set that came out this last year where they use like Americana set where they use baseball bats as your BMs, and they use baseballs as the dots, and can't remember what they use for cracks, but all of the things on the tiles all have this sort of Americana motif. So, so there's some other options available, but I would imagine most of the current plastic type sets that are made now are pretty much all probably coming from Asia.
All right, let's see. Cindy.
Yep. Happiness is playing mahjong at the clubhouse.
Okay.
I guess
Well,
that's true for all the condo owners.
right. Okay, Gail.
I don't always play mahjong. Sometimes I'm sleeping. I don't play that often.
Well, some people play 3-4 games a week, right? Depending on their schedules, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Donna. This is a good one for you too, Donna.
Okay. I only play Mahjong days that end in Y. Right?
Yeah,
I'm having a hard time
you
saying.
get it,
I
you
only
get it,
play
you get
Mahjong
it.
on days that end in
Why?
Y.
Exactly. All right, that's every day, Donna. You would play every day,
I
could.
know that. I don't play every day.
Okay. And then let's say Iris, here's the last one.
Drink wine, mahjong, sleep naked. Okay, words to live by.
But yeah. Okay. So now let's go back to chatting, and we're going to go back to our group and have a few further discussions. One thing we didn't mention was food. I mean, that's a big part of every Mahjong game, isn't it? So, what is it usually like? You know, eating. Got to eat. We can't have a game without food. So, what do we do, Cindy? What do we have?
But we have your standard trail mix. Gotta always have some fruit, pineapple, grapes, melon. And the group that I play with now, these lovely ladies, always have hot tea. And I used to play with a group that I only gave them water. And pretzels, waters, and grape was my standard put out at that time. Now we have a variety of things. Different people, we cook cakes sometimes, we have cookies. But you got to have the snacks. You can't play without it.
Absolutely. And Iris, when you have those tournaments, some people don't even go for the Mahjong, they go for the lunch because the lunch is so terrific. So tell us what you have at that wonderful lunch.
Oh goodness. Well, we don't just have lunch. When we first started, it was just an afternoon tournament. And when we first started, at the very beginning, I didn't do lunch. Then I did lunch and then 3 hours of playing, all for $18 a person. It was the best deal in town. And then we started adding the morning session of Mahjong plus lunch. And then we started adding breakfast plus the morning session of Mahjong plus lunch plus more Mahjong for the afternoon. Plus, of course, you have to have some pastry snacks in between. So it's a lot of food. And there are definitely people that tell me, I don't know, am I coming for the food? Am I coming for the, I'm not even sure which one I'm really coming for more. But so we do it all home cooked, home baked, and we do it that way because we enjoy doing it. I mean, people say, well, why don't you do just a box lunch? But we enjoy making the food, and we enjoy that it makes people happy. And then we sell the extra food that's left over because the whole point of doing it is for fundraising. So,
right, but you haven't mentioned the kugel yet. That's the most important thing.
That's our secret weapon. That's our secret.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and as a matter of fact, every so often we've tried to change up the menu a little, and I have such a revolt because it was, how do we change up the menu but still include the kugel? And we made quiche a couple of years ago, phenomenal quiche. We had a person who is, French, who knows how to make pastry like you can't believe. And so she made the crust and she made the quiche and she put so much time and energy into it. And I had people come back after comment, the quiche was nice, but we can't get kugel, your kind of kugel anywhere else. We're coming for the kugel. And we do have a lot of people that are not, kugel is not part of their culinary repertoire. So for them, that's such a treat. So we have to include kugel. We can't not include the kugel.
Okay. All right. So let's see. We covered the tiles, the art, a little bit of the history, some of the sayings that are kind of cute. So I want to go around one more time. Tell the people who are watching again, what's the magic of Mahjong? Why should they take up the game? And what has it done for your life? What has it added that you would be missing if you didn't play? So Cindy, why don't you start?
I will start. I think it just, with quarantine, you now know how much Mahjong is a part of your life. Because without playing weekly and have to play with the computer and can't even discuss a hand with somebody. It is such a big part, and it's just, I have to go back to the socialization issue and to the camaraderie issue. It's just great. It's interesting when I was putting on my social media and my Facebook page that we were doing the show today. I heard from a friend of mine who lives in Cheshire that she misses playing since March because she's been quarantined. I had no idea that this woman played mahjong, and it was just like, oh, I wish I knew. We could have been playing, every time we get together, we could have had a game or something. So it runs across the gamut of different people and different ethnic groups, as you were saying, Iris, and it's just a great way to spend an afternoon or an evening.
Okay, let's go to Donna. Your final thoughts?
Okay, well, I miss my friends that I play mahjong with. I miss the game. It does a lot for me. I mean, I could have a headache in the morning and it disappears within 5 minutes of playing mahjong. So I can't wait to get back to it.
Okay, great. Thanks. And Gail, how about you?
So what I love about mahjong, of course, is the game, and you really develop very, very special friends when you sit around the table on a weekly basis. So I love that. You could play when you're young, you could play when you're old. Once you know the game, it's a great way to meet people also. People I know who have moved to a new community, when people hear that they play mahjong, right away you could get into a game and make friends. Also, one other thing I just wanted to say was that the ladies I play with on Monday, we've been playing together for, I don't know, over 12 years. So we have a tradition now. We call it Super Maj. And on Super Bowl Sunday, we all get together and the ladies sit and play mahjong and we drink Cosmos, and the men go inside and watch the Super Bowl. And we all come together for halftime, and then we go back to finishing playing mahjong. So it's really, it's just, I don't know, it's taught me a lot, and I really, really enjoy it and look forward to it.
Okay, great. And Iris, your final thoughts?
Okay, well, I can't reinforce what all of you just said. And I when I first started my first game, my mother had just moved out to Ohio where I was living. And so, and that's when I learned how to play. So our game was 4 people who were in there, myself included, who were like in our 40s, and my mother. And so so we also got that made it special too.
So you're getting verklempt over your mahjong and your mom. I mean, how special is that? Yeah.
The one thing I want to say, though, is don't let coronavirus stop you from playing. My solution is, and a lot of you I know have played with it, there's a couple of different video online games that you can play. And everybody, I think, whichever one you play first kind of makes people like that one better. But I like realmahjong.com, but that's the one I prefer. But there's a way to play it. You can play it against the computer, but you can also play it with your friends. And there's also, because you're just doing the chat is just typing in, phrases back and forth. But what we do is, and I know other people are doing the same thing, you go and do a conference call, a group phone call on your phone, put it on speakerphone. So you sit and you play the game on the computer in our individual houses. But we're talking real time. So it's just like you're sitting around the mahjong table having a game. So it feels as close as you possibly can to playing mahjong, except that you have to bring your own food. That's the only thing. I would encourage that. And I know other people do it with, like, they do FaceTime while they're playing online too. So that's another option. But so there's still a way to do it. Or if you want to get together and socially distance yourself 6 feet apart, if everybody brought their own iPad, you could still do that without exchanging tiles and still play a game physically sitting next to one another, playing the game online using the online screen, but you're talking amongst yourselves and playing and actually being together. So there's a couple of ways you guys could do it in one. So I encourage you to give it a try.
Okay, that's great. Those are great words. And to watch you get verklempt, to get emotional about this shows the importance of the history, generation to generation, our mothers, our families, our old friends playing. It's a very, very important part of the culture of our lives. And that's why Mahjong, as you all have said, you didn't talk about the competition and the winning. That was the last thing you talked about. You talked about how it's togetherness, it's family, it's friendship, it's closeness, it's emotion. And I think that's what you've expressed today. So I hope we've shown people a little bit about the game. Don't think it's that complicated. Iris is a great teacher. Everyone on this panel is a great teacher, and learning can be a lot of fun. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming online to watch. You can watch this on YouTube also. And we'll see you next time on Talkback. Bye. Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you, Sheila.